Just kidding. Yingling is twist off. For the last project that I did, which I'll link to up here, I bought two 8-foot sections of 1x2 pine boards. And this is the leftover from that project. So I figured rather than just go and throw this in the bin with the rest of the scrap wood, that I'd make something out of it. So I went and picked up some of these bottle openers on Amazon, and I'm gonna make a wall-mounted bottle opener. Simple project, and rather than pull out the power saw to make 2 cuts out of this board, I'm going old school. So I'm just gonna cut out 3 pieces, probably about 13 inches long, and then I'm gonna run them through the miter table to chamfer the edges like I did on my last project. So I'm gonna get started with that. Now that I've got my pieces cut to size and I've got the edges chamfered, I'm just gonna glue it up. Now, in dealing with this chamfered edge, you don't need a router. You could just take a piece of sandpaper, a scrap piece of wood, and sand those edges off. You don't need a router, you don't need any special tools for this. I just happen to have it here on the workbench. It was set up for my last project, so I used it. So I guess in kind of keeping this a simple project, I mean, like I said, I didn't even bust out the miter saw to cut the wood. I did it with a cheap plastic miter box and a handsaw. In keeping with this simple project idea, I'm just gonna glue this up. I'm not gonna use any pocket holes, I'm not gonna use any screws, anything. So I'm gonna be using some of this Titebond Type 3. It's waterproof, it's good for interior, exterior use, so that if I decide to hang this out by the pool or hang it in the garage or in the kitchen, whatever, the wood glue is not going to be an issue with it being outside. So I'm going to actually just take a couple of clamps and glue this up, and I'm going to use the clamps, the bar of the clamp, to keep my pieces square. I'll just keep it on the bench, and that'll keep it all level. I may clamp it down to the bench if I need to, but let's get it glued up and get it clamped together. All right, so give the glue time to set up, then we'll move on to the next step. Now the glue is the time to set up. I'm gonna hit it with some sandpaper. And this is just some 120 grit, and that's really just to take down any glue that may have gotten on any of the surfaces. Once that's sanded, then I'm gonna hit it with a torch and then stain it. Normally I would do the torch work and the staining before doing the glue up. But for this project, with it being such a small project, I'm not that concerned about it. Plus, I'm not gonna be that concerned with having a nice clean line between the union and the stripes. I want this project to be even more rustic looking than some other projects. So I figure I'm just gonna really burn that area more where the union meets the stripes. And that way, any stain that may bleed over that area, it'll just give it a more rustic look. We'll see how it works. Normally I would use razor blades, drive it into the wood, and that would prevent any bleed over. But for this one, I'm gonna let it bleed a little bit and see how it turns out. So I'm just gonna take some of this 120 grit, wrap it around a spare or a scrap piece of wood. You could do this obviously with a hand sander. I've got some, but I think I'm gonna try to do this project more with just as minimal tools as possible. So I'm gonna sand it, burn it, and stain it. Now that I've got all the staining done, I went back and I did do a little bit of extra burning between the stripes and between the union and the stripes, just to kind of blur those lines a little bit more, so it wasn't as clean of a line or as clean of a division between those areas. But now I went ahead and I laid out 5 stars using my union stencil. So I went 2, 1, and then 2. I'm going to cut those out. Now normally I would cut those out using a Dremel, but I think I'm going to try to do it with a couple of chisels. So I'm going to use the larger chisel to do the perimeter of the star, and then I'll come back with the smaller chisel and cut out the center section of the star. Once that's done, I'll take a torch again and hit the star areas just to darken them up a little bit. Let's get to that. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the way the stars turned out. There were a couple of spots where the wood splintered a little bit, and I think that's just from not going deep enough with the chisel around the perimeter of the star. So when I carved out the center, it pulled a little bit away from near the edge of the star a little bit, but live and learn. I think I do prefer the Dremel over the chisels, but I prefer using the chisel for the perimeter. So maybe next time I'll do a combination of the two. I'll use the chisel to do the perimeter and then hog it out with the Dremel. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. And I just think it looks a little more rustic for this project. So yeah, I like it. So the next step will be to put on some of this Minwax wipe on poly. There you go. This way I can, it's just to protect the wood, and this way if I want to hang it up outside, inside, it won't really matter. Plus it'll just add a nice little more durable coating to the surface. Once I get the poly done, then I will mount the bottle opener. which I'm thinking is going to go, yeah, somewhere around there. I'll get it all measured out and mounted. But first, it's time to do the poly. Once that front coat sets up, I'll give it a coat on the back also. Once the poly's set up, I added the bottle opener, and I did cheat on the back. I added a couple of keyholes here with a keyhole bit in my trim router. Now, you could probably just use something as simple as, you know, a picture hanger like this, maybe something a little more secure. I just wanted to use the keyholes since, you know, when you're putting any kind of pressure on it, opening bottles, that's just a more secure mount. Plus I added 2 of them, so it's not gonna move around on me at all. It'll be nice and secure against wherever I decide to mount it. So let's stick it somewhere and give it a try. All right, so here I just stuck it on the wall next to my workbench. I had a screw there ready for this stuff. So, works good. So, just a couple pieces of scrap wood, a few hours, an Amazon purchased bottle opener, and you got yourself a handy dandy wall mount bottle opener. Put it out back by the pool, mount it in your garage, wherever. Works good. That was only 1 screw holding it on in the drywall, not even in a stud. So, that's it. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you on the next one.